Good morning, Bucknutters. It is Thursday, January the 15th, 2026. I am Dan Rubin. This is the Bucknuts Morning 5, joined, as always on Thursdays, by the lovely and talented Garrick, Hodge, and Mark Porter. And man, we've been getting some page views at the site. Good Lord. Boy, this thing's been nuts as we've gone down to the deadline of the transfer portal and of the NFL draft. There's more comings and goings. The offseason has become absolutely nuts. And yes, no offense to Mr. Fielding, but your long national or long regional nightmare is over. Ohio State has secured a kicker. And if you heard that, that was the sound of minstrels. We have a kicker. We have a kicker. So let's just start with that before we get to anything else, and then we will kind of redouble our efforts to inform you. And hey, if it wouldn't be Bucknuts if someone wouldn't come with the love quick. All right, Garrick, Connor Hawkins is a Buckeye. This was sleuthed out. If you're a front row guy, Cavs fan 89 crushed this. It was like back in the day when we used to track flight patterns of and coaching searches. My guy did some research and let you know who we were going to get ahead of time based on the social medias and such. Garrick, bring us up to speed on who we got and why it's important.
Yeah, I just want to take a moment to bask in how much of a celebratory mood Ohio State Nation is right now. I've never seen anything like this. I've been covering Ohio State recruiting for about 5 years now, and I've seen some big commitments in that time, of course. And the most recent big one I handled with you guys at Bucknuts was DJ Jacobs, the number one overall player in the entire country for the 2027 class, this prolific pass rusher that's probably going to be a first-round pick in 4 years from now. And the general consensus from Ohio State after getting that commitment, now that's the one that you should go, oh my God, did you see who we got? Was, well, that's cool. We'll see if it sticks. Wake me up in a year. That's fine. But you get a transfer commitment from a kicker, damn it. It was, oh my God, call your sons, call your daughters, call your friends, call your neighbors. The Bucks have a kicker. We're back, baby. Let's go. And it was just so amusing to me. And I mean, hey, this kid is really, really damn talented. He's going to have 3 years of eligibility. He made 3 field goals from 50 yards or more, one of them a game winner from 53 yards out with 34 seconds left. It's enough to get you jazzed for sure. But I just wanted to start this kicker talk with, it's so amusing that if you read all the comments on the Bucknut story from landing Connor yesterday, you would have thought that Ohio State just landed a 3-time NFL MVP to come in and play for Ohio State. But anyway, the excitement is warranted based on, yes, the kicking deficiencies from a year ago and how talented Connor is. Now, you said it, Dan, the internet sleuths kind of sniffed this one out before the rest of us did. And even before this kid entered the portal, which, by the way, he entered the portal on Wednesday, the same day he committed to Ohio State. So he really knew where he wanted to go ahead of time. Even before he entered the transfer portal.
Purely coincidental, Garrick.
Of course, right? But he started following Ohio State on social media, et cetera, and it was the only team that he was following at the time, if I saw that correctly. So you started connecting the dots pretty quickly. Now, in terms of Connor Hawkins, the player, he spent 1 year as Baylor's primary place kicker and field goal kicker. He made 81% of his field goals. He was 3 of 4 on field goals from 50 yards away or longer, and was 5 of 8 on field goals between 40 and 49 yards. He was a perfect 10 for 10 on field goals, 39 yards or fewer, and was a perfect 37 of 37 on PATs. His career long, 54 yards out. And like I said, he also made a game winner against Kansas State from 53 yards out with 36 seconds left. So he's proven that he can handle a big kick under pressure. And honestly, the best part is this isn't just a 1-year rental. This is a guy that could be here for up to 3 years. So you already got a guy that's drilling 50-yard field goals, and this is your kicker of the here and now, and this is your kicker of the future. So it's hard not to be excited about him.
Mark, do you get excited by kickers?
If it was Brandon Aubrey and it was the Dallas Cowboys, I would be excited about kickers. And, you know, just to digress a little bit, in the NFL, kickers are a weapon for certain teams. There's certain teams that you get across the 50-yard line and the points are automatic, and it's like, wow, we can't stop this. And that 3 points is kind of boring, but it's a possession. And I don't think enough teams realize that we just got a guy that can help us out with our possessions. And if he can be a weapon, not just a kicker, not just someone we all hold our breath and say don't miss, but an actual weapon where you know that it's money in the bank anytime you get within the 35. If you get inside the 50, you're probably getting some points. That's huge for this fan base right now, to have a kicker that puts them at ease. I think that's over the past 2 years, if we really wanted to be critical, our kicker has
What if we had the Ole Miss kicker the last 2 years?
That's what I'm saying. Like,
literally, think about that for a second. Actually, practically apply that to some games and the decision making that goes into certain things. Maybe an interception you didn't throw because you were forcing it on 3rd and long, like Mark said. I can't bring it.
I mean, it's like, why is there so much excitement? Why are people geeking out over a kicker? Because our kicker has put us through some pain. He's put us through a lot of what ifs, and that's like one of the worst things in football. What if we would have done this? What if that possession? And in 3 of the most key games we've had in the past couple of years, we've needed a lockdown kicker. Let's cross our fingers with some optimism and hope this guy is it. But he could get better. And that's what I'm kind of looking for. Like you're saying, he's young and he just kind of laid down his first mark. He's got the leg strength. A lot of times when you have that type of leg strength, a lot of those shorter kicks are easy for you. And it's just like a chipping and putting thing rather than really trying to nail one from 200 yards out. So hats off to the Buckeyes for putting Buckeye Nation at rest. We could all use that.
And let's identify this and just kind of state this for ourselves. There is no such thing as tampering. If you hear that word going forward, it literally doesn't exist. It's called research or stick-to-itiveness or elbow grease or something good. There's no such thing as tampering. You're not going to – it's not enforced, and this is no slight to Ohio State. If you enter the portal with a do-not-contact list and you sign with somebody else for a lot of money shortly thereafter, you explain to me how you got the money then if it wasn't tampered with. Telekinesis? I mean, carrier pigeon? Come on now. So we don't need to worry about that. And I think we've reached the benefit of the doubt portion of the show again, where like the Legend Bay Chris Henry experience during the signing day, we need to be – Ohio State has earned the benefit of the doubt. I really don't care what anyone tells me this now in terms of personnel. We were freaking out about the transfer portal. They clearly know what they're doing. Now, you may not agree with them and their approach, Garrick, but would you agree that they clearly know and have identified what their issues are? And a lot of the issues are the ones I think that Buckeye fans are concerned about. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, every transfer portal article that I wrote on Bucknuts, the first comment would be, well, what about the damn kicker? Can he pick up field goals?
But seriously, even
and then the second comment would be, that's great. Can he rush the passer? And to your point, yes. And then, of course, the third comment will be, well, can he block? And to your point, Ohio State has attacked upgrades on the defensive line. They went out and waited, were patient, knew that they were going to get a kicker that was going to be, in their opinion, a massive upgrade over what they had a year ago. A kicker that, like Mark says, they hope that they can turn into a weapon. So they've been patient, they've adapted. And listen, one thing I know about Ohio State, and in terms of the front office, the infrastructure, the recruiting strategy, is that even if things look grim for a couple months, a couple weeks, whatever it is, they're going to bounce back. They're going to adjust because they've proven it time and time again that they will adjust and right the ship when they need to. It might take a little longer than fans hope it to, but they're going to get the thing on the straight and narrow more or less, and they're going to honestly self-assess themselves and make the corrections as necessary.
I'm not trying to blow smoke here, but General Manager Mark Pantony is a known commodity. He is not a variable. You're talking about like the CEO of the factory who has worked his way up from the floor. You know what I'm saying? He's been here, man. Done that at multiple spots, built championship teams. You want to talk about a real program asset, man. Mark Pantony is way, way, way up there. Like, talk to people in the program behind closed doors, ever. and that name will come up and like, thank God. It's like Mick. Back in the day. Go ahead, Mark.
From what I'm hearing behind closed doors up there, it's like a draft room 24/7. Where like the phones are in there. Everyone's got their cell phone. The ticker for the
war room.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a nonstop live breaking news war room where there's someone on the phones 24/7 taking these calls from with the weirdest places. Like you're saying, people are calling and putting feelers out. Hey, we have a kid. You interested? And this was going on months ago. Not that there's tampering, but there are a lot of conversations that are being funneled up into one place. And that's kind of how they're handled. And Mark Pantony's staff doesn't get enough credit. He has minions. There's a bunch of little yellow guys running around that office with different jobs that are doing a lot of things right now to make his life go smoothly. And his genius, I think, is knowing what he needs. Yeah, I need a guy for this. I need 3 guys for that. Even the game day experience. I need 37 or 40 student helpers to be assisting in every single recruit that comes on campus with their parents. I need to know their names. I need them to be trained in this type of hand-to-hand combat where you're going to be a host. I mean, sometimes I think of his job, and it's not just, hey, watch a film and send it up to Ryan Day and get somebody offered. Those days are gone. The word general manager and manager, it's a legit thing. He's managing a ton.
Yeah, the attention to detail is excellent, and the standard is ridiculous. Keep in mind, Mark Pantony and Ryan Day don't want to lose games. They know what dealing with you guys is like when they lose. Good Lord. They want to win too, man. But it's like we talked about, Dave and I hypothesized, like or maybe we even talked about this on Tuesday. What if you went to the NFL and said everybody is on a 1-year contract and there's 175 teams? Would that be chaos, you think? Maybe. All right.
I told somebody, I'm like, I got to watch about 3,000 or 4,000 films, but I know who the seniors are and I know who the juniors are. And throughout the year I have time. They're like, why don't you do the portal? I'm like, because on one day at a certain date, the next day there's 3,000 or 4,000 new people in a portal who I never knew before, didn't know if they were going in or not. You might have known some or whatever, but the point is there's no service out there. There's no staff out there that can possibly handle that much information coming in all at once, unless you're the Buckeyes and you got a way to filter through it all. But this is a mind-numbing task, that this portal. I mean, it takes some while to churn through this. Trust me. I tell people, if I got to watch 1,000 films and I got to put at least 3 minutes on each film because it's real time, or 4 minutes, there goes 3,000 or 4,000 minutes. Not to mention the clicking in and out of profiles. So it's a time-based effort to evaluate all these guys.
All right, let's move. We've talked about this. Package deals. They are the myth in recruiting. Somehow Ohio State pulled one of Quay Rousseau, James Smith. I spent so much time trying to do Quay Rousseau. I didn't do the Robinson Smith one correctly. By the way, you want to talk about a package deal? These dudes are legit. They are the standard for package deal. They may be, I don't know if they're related. You can go back and, what's that?
Twin brothers.
Quay and
no, sorry. I thought we were.
No, we're getting to that. We're building towards that. We're going to take it to the next level now, package deal. But getting those two guys in, if you look at them in Birmingham, all visits together, signing day together, everything, you can trace it back to their youngsters. So that's really cool. And that's, like I said, these guys call themselves package deals all the time, and they never really are. Now, here's one way you nail package deal. Twins. Familial lock. Which brings us to Florida State's Desir twins. Garrick, I'm going to give you the floor here. Could you please explain who they are, why they're attractive, the interest the Buckeyes have, and then whatever possible complications come with the modern NIL times that have succumbed us, or we've succumbed to?
Well, there's a lot of complications, but let's start with the fun part. So Mandrell and Darryl Desir. Now, these are guys that outperformed their initial 247 Sports ranking as true freshmen, right? Both of these guys are true freshmen. and will have 3 years of eligibility remaining if they end up going to a new team, which is a big if, but we'll get into that in a second. So Mandrell and Darryl Desir announced their intentions to enter the transfer portal. I believe it was January 4th or January 5th. They didn't actually submit the paperwork to do so until yesterday. So schools outside of Florida State haven't been able to legally contact them, set up visits, things of that nature. Now, Florida State has been trying their best to keep both of these guys in the fold. And from what I understand, if these guys leave campus, there's not much optimism they're going to stay in Tallahassee. So we're just coming out of what was a 3-day mini dead period of transfer portal visits, meaning Monday through Wednesday of this week, you couldn't have any visitors on campus. You could talk to them, but you couldn't have them on campus. That ends today. As of Thursday, Ohio State can host transfer portal visitors again if it so wishes. Now, why are Mandrell and Darryl Desir that enticing? Well, because they're both rated in the top 20 transfer portal prospects in the country per 24/7 Sports Transfer Portal rankings. But more importantly, Mandrell Desir in particular is a freshman All-American. And what did he do in his first year in college football? He appeared in 12 games, made 30 tackles, 7.5 tackles for loss, 6.5 sacks with a pass breakup and a forced fumble. That'll play. What did his twin brother do? Well, like his brother, he also made a decent impact, played in 12 games, and made 23 tackles, a tackle and a half for a loss, and a sack. But he is also immensely talented at 6'5", 262 pounds. I think both of these guys are probably best suited on the edge, but they have the frame and the versatility to play the 3, the 5, whatever you want to put them at. They're not specifically limited to purely edge rusher. You could shift them inside if you wanted to. But we talk about getting proven production. Mandrell in particular, this is a guy that had 6.5 sacks as a true freshman. You would think that that number is only going to go up as the career goes on. And his transfer portal ranking vastly exceeds his high school recruiting ranking, so he's already stuck it to the recruiting services out there. Now, why is this complicated? Well, a couple of reasons. From what I understand, there's a buyout in both of those twins' contracts. Now, you hear the word buyout, and there's a reason why DeMond Williams, the Washington quarterback, ends up staying with Washington after publicly declaring he's out of there, right? Because, well, that rev share deal that he signed with Washington was very lucrative, and yeah, they were going to collect on that. And it's a Big Ten policy, and the frustrating thing about covering that is that nobody really seems to want to indicate what the specific policy is or what the contract language is, because every deal is structured differently. But from what I understand with these two guys, there is a buyout in place. But the question that everybody's wondering, is that buyout enforceable? And if it is enforceable, how prohibitive or non-prohibitive might it be toward Ohio State's or any other school's pursuits of the talented pass rushing duo? And then the other question, because we're in modern recruiting, and I'll just give another general consensus reminder. So the transfer portal is open to all college players that want to enter their names and look for a new home up until midnight tomorrow. So that is your last day to officially enter the transfer portal. It ends tomorrow. You can sign whenever you want once you're in the transfer portal. There is no deadline to find a new team. But if you want to enter the transfer portal, you have to be in by midnight Friday, right? So I bring that up to say, let's say Ohio State, and from what I've heard, someone in the Desir twins camp thought they could be on Ohio State's campus as soon as today. I have not been able to confirm that on my end, so who knows if that's just hearsay or that could actually be in the works. But Zion Grady is also a talented upcoming young edge rusher. He might feel a certain kind of way about, hey, you just brought in a tandem from Alabama on the defensive line, and now you're going to bring in a pair of twins on the Florida State edge rusher. He might feel a certain kind of way about that after looking pretty promising for one season. Now, Ohio State might be like, you know what? We believe in Zion. It's not worth it. Maybe the buyout is prohibitive. We won't get all that invested in the Desir twins. Or they might go, proven production is proven production. We hope to keep them, but if there's a deflection or two, so be it. it'll be an interesting recruitment to see. But I will say, if they show up on campus, Ohio State will be very confident that they can get the buyout structure figured out. That's obviously the first and foremost question you got to ask yourself as Ohio State. Can you get this, whatever the buyout is it prohibitive or is it not? And if it's not, they're going to show up on campus, you would think. I expect Ohio State to kick the tires here. How aggressively they're going to kick the tires remains to be seen. It will depend on, like I said, the buyout and whether they weigh the consequence of a younger player possibly defecting by midnight tomorrow as something that's worth it for the pursuit of these two guys, or if they just think that that cost is too extreme and they'd rather carry on with business as usual. Plus, you also got to remember they've signed 3 defensive linemen so far. Wade Rusaw, James Smith, and John Walker from Central Florida, who's going to be a prolific run-stopping defensive tackle. So I've talked enough. I don't know if Mark's looked at these guys at all or has film of them, but I will say, last thing I'll say is both Mandrell and Darryl, they're players you can dream on for a while, and they're young players. And if you get them in here, theoretically, they could be here up to 3 years. So this is not just a one-term investment.
See, that's what makes it challenging. We talked about this a little bit before the show, and I don't think we can go super detailed into this today, but I wonder if you can even worry about that ever again. I mean, I'm a Zion Grady fan, but if you start worrying about people's emotions when you're playing 52 pickup every year, you might be left holding something besides, you know what I mean? All right. The Desir, Mandrell Desir. Mom was a big country music fan. Go ahead.
Yeah, he's a defensive tackle right here. You see the change of direction and the burst. Boy, if I could open my wallet after watching this tape, I'd be opening my wallet. And it's funny. The fantasy people are like running back by committee. He's over here, the defensive end at the top of the screen. I watched this earlier so I could kind of figure out where he was. I mean, he's got defensive tackle size, defensive end kind of speed and agility. But I think if you truly want what's best for Ohio State, you want defensive line by committee. You want to be able to put as many fresh guys in here as come through the middle there as possible. You want like that wave of rotation, and you want a bunch of big guys for short yardage. You want pass rushers for 3rd and down. So I wouldn't be opposed to bringing on these two guys, even if it did mess with our salary cap a little bit, especially because they're young and you'll have them around for a little while. You may have to renegotiate every year, like Dan's saying. Everybody's on these 1-year contracts, but the pass rush ability and his highlight film in a limited amount, I really like what I'm seeing here. I don't think we can get enough guys like this.
And like you say, proven. Now, the ACC, we know, is not the Big Ten or the SEC. I believe Mandrell was also, if he wasn't freshman defender of the year in the ACC, he was the freshman defensive lineman of the year, which is pretty obvious considering how great he was. But
what happened to the ACC where it was Charlie Ward and Marvin Jones and Bobby Bowden? I mean, that's what I grew up with, where they were it. And it's like, how far, like, we're just picking off their starters, their best safety, their best defensive lineman. I mean, what are they, our JV team all of a sudden?
Miami, Florida State, when I was growing up, was the can't miss. I've heard an NFL scout say that he started to go to practices of Florida State and Miami leading up to that, and that those were as good as the game and better than anything else he did. Garrick, were you going to say something?
Counter argument. I don't want to rub salt in the wound, but what team is in the national championship right now?
No, I was going to say the ACC, for all their picadillos, they got a chance to bring it in, and we may discuss that later on, depending on how we go.
Why are they in the national championship? Because of their trench play. So if you take maybe there's something to it. Now Florida State's a mess in a lot.
It is.
But
yeah.
These guys were certainly not part of that mess.
This is the last year for Norvell at Florida State, barring a miracle season. Because if you go look at their roster, everybody's boogieing. Everybody. I mean, let's just call it straight. If you getting a package deal is awesome. Losing a package deal is like getting kicked in the nards. You know what I'm saying? So it works both ways. And right, we already got Earl Little from Florida State, who was the only, I guess Mandrell probably would have been the second best defender on the team last year. Earl Little was the best defender on that team. Earl Little was the only Florida State player to get either first or second team all ACC. Earl Little chose the Buckeyes over the NFL, where I believe I was told he's got a 3rd or 4th round grade. So That's some quality. And I will not even go into my favorite transfer, who is Terry Moore, who I am telling you, if Terry Moore is healthy, the sky is the absolute limit, because he is the prototype safety physically. Caleb Downs, the best safety I've ever gotten a chance to watch in person every day, and I loved every minute of it. He's still 6 foot, 205 pounds. What if he was 6'2" and 215 and two? I don't know. Can you get higher than the first pick in the draft? All right. Let's talk the draft and how the team looks right now. Garrick, could you please bring us up to speed on the deadlines that were experienced and kind of where we stand? Ohio State, I think, actually avoided mass exits to the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, the good news that you want to see is that the entire offensive line is coming back, right? Austin Searveld, Luke Montgomery, Carson Hinsman, all of those guys who could theoretically go be NFL draft picks right now have all announced that they're coming back for another season at Ohio State. So that was the best news from yesterday. Max Clare, as we said on Tuesday's show, the writing was kind of on the wall once Ohio State added 2 tight ends from the transfer portal that he was probably going to go declare for the NFL draft. In terms of when the deadline is, well, if you're not named Indiana or Miami, the 2 teams playing in the national championship, the deadline was actually yesterday at 3 o'clock. So theoretically, all decisions have been made by all these players. We're just waiting for announcements from them specifically. And the 2 that we're waiting on are Jermaine Matthews Jr., talented cornerback for Ohio State that will be a surefire starter if he comes back, and was a surefire starter this year, played very well. And the other one is Kenyatta Jackson Jr., which the answer you get on him may also very well factor into how aggressively you pursue these Desir twins, right? Although if he comes back, I still think they're going to be very interested in bringing these Desir twins along regardless. But so that's a potential starting defensive end and a for surefire starting cornerback that you're just waiting to make a public announcement on. And obviously the NFL deadline for the draft was 3 o'clock yesterday. The only thing that's mandated is that you tell the NFL if you're going or not. You don't have to tell the world. You can do that on your own time. And obviously Ohio State is going to let these guys have their moments and let them have their announcements, and they're not going to leak anything out ahead of time. So I would assume we'll know maybe today, maybe tomorrow, but within the next 48 to 72 hours, you would think whether Kenyatta Jackson Jr. or Jermaine Matthews are coming back. And both would be huge lifts. If I were going to predict, I would guess both of them will. But we've seen crazier things happen in college football before. So we'll see how it plays out. But, man, Matt Patricia's defense would be looking pretty good if you can retain those 2 guys right there.
Kenyatta would be an NFL player playing on your college team by age and talent and experience. So that's a good place to start. He also, I think, if you look at the team, you could make an argument to him that if you come back, you really could play yourself into the top 20 of the draft. Some guys you can't tell that to. And when you're already getting paid good money and you get to come back, pretty much definitely going to be a captain, I would assume, or somewhere in the mix. You know what I mean? He's going to get to be the star of the defensive line, in name at least. So, and he didn't walk on senior day, by the way. That's the key. Guys that can walk, and if you don't, who would want to give that up? So that's really, really encouraging. Jermaine Matthews, I think it's in his best interest to come back. I don't think he would get drafted, but he's not a top. I don't even know if he get picked in the second day right now. Whereas he's another guy that you can say, look, you played corner at Ohio State and you have a good year. You could definitely play yourself into the first or second day. The one I was slightly worried about was Austin Searveld. Now, I didn't think he was going to leave, but if you're a mock draft nerd like me, he was like a second-round pick for a lot of people. So getting him back is tremendous. Here's what's interesting. Ohio State now on the offensive line has not been very active in the transfer portal. And what I'm told is they will not be. Garrick, I try and bring this up. Sometimes I don't know who watches every show, but Garrick and I discuss this a little bit. I think Ohio State's higher on their personnel on the offensive line than the public. which makes sense after a game like they experienced. Mark, so you're bringing back everyone on the offensive line. That's another year of man strength to add to them. There are some positions where I don't know if that'd be a huge advantage. Another year in the weight room, another year paying taxes because they're all getting paid now. I think that matters. I mean, we talked about, I hate to keep bringing this up, Bo Jackson trying to block a grown A man and just getting crushed because he's 18 years old. Now, there's other factors that go into that. But your thoughts on the offensive line coming back intact, and would you have approached it in this fashion given what you know about them?
I have a lot of thoughts. At some point in time this year, I saw a stat in the NFL where it's like these 5 guys have started 17 consecutive games together, and all of a sudden you see the team around them blowing up, whether it was Jacksonville this year or someone like that. But that's what continuity can do. That's what communication can do. I've said on this program before, we've all played Madden, and you progress your team through the season, and you hope all your players come back 3 or 4 points better. So if you're an 89 overall rating, you want to come back as a 93 or a 95. I think you mentioned that Sierreveld is maybe the highest rated drafted guy right now if he were to go, maybe second round. And that's the rub, and that's the good news, bad news. If any of these guys were really good, like we want them to be, they'd be going in the first round and we wouldn't be able to keep them. But in this day and age, you can pay what 3rd, 4th, 5th rounders are going to go for, and that's a quality player, 3rd, 4th, 5th round offensive lineman going to the NFL. There's no knock there, but I think all of these guys have now bet on me, would be the cliche where, hey, I don't like what my draft grade is. I don't want to go as a 2nd or 3rd rounder. I'd rather be paid X amount to stay here and go next year. Sierreveld goes in the 1st round, it's a win. So I like that these guys have bet on themselves to better themselves, where they know they need to progress. It's not like, hey, I'm just going to stay around and enjoy the free money and the fun, girls and all that type of stuff, campus life. I'm coming back because I want to go to the NFL and not get drafted where they're saying I'm going to get drafted. So this is a net plus for us, even though I'm kind of saying, hey, it's a double-edged sword. We weren't good enough yet, but I'm telling you, give 5 or 7 guys that progression of 5 or 6 points to their Madden rating, and wherever it is, speed, quickness, agility, knowledge, they're going to be better. And give Coach Bowen another year of knowing these guys and working with them, and it's all net positive for us. There still may be a piece. There still may be a depth piece added, or someone pops up. You're not, thinking they pop up after these championship games or in spring ball. Spring ball's when you shuffle the deck again. I hate to say that there might be a guy because I know you guys are confident, but wouldn't shock me. Nothing will shock me anymore.
So I guess what, are they scarred by the Ethan Onianwa signing when I'm not saying it's linear, but they basically chose him over Carter Smith, the Columbus native who is starting for Indiana at left tackle now. It's going to be a second or third round draft pick. So not sure what went into that. That story will probably come out over beverages this offseason, and whether we can report it or not, we will get to that. But it does seem like the offensive line is going to return semi-intact. So here's what's interesting. Their right guard, who started most of the season, Tegra Shabola, will be trying to do so for Kentucky. So I think the belief going forward, maybe, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, was Ian Moore maybe goes in at left tackle. We flipped Austin Sierreveld to right guard, and that would be very, very strong up the middle because Sierreveld is a stud. I think he's a natural guard. I could be wrong on that. Mark can probably give you more detail on that. The thing about Sierreveld is he ran like an Army offense in high school, so he never really learned how to pass block traditionally. Justin Fry told me to my face X years ago when Sierreveld was a freshman, he showed up as the best run blocker on the team. He just hadn't had the experience as a pass blocker. Mark, can he pick that up? Can we get any? Would you rather see him at guard?
You know what? Guard just makes more sense because that lets him be who he was bred to be coming out of high school. Yeah. And I hate pigeonholing someone like that. Oh, he's a run guy and he can't ever do the other. He can do the other. He's fine there. He's got the feet and, talent too. But you have a real tackle or a tackle's body that can slide in there. And you know what? I like him firing off the ball inside. I mean, that's in a phone booth. He's one of those guys that can move you out of a phone booth, they say. And you're right. The more we put people in their natural positions or get the best 5 out there, like you're saying, we take all these tackles. Well, the best tackles go to tackle, and the second best tackles go to guard. If that plays out with Ian Moore, I'm fine with it.
All right, Garrick. What are you looking at today? I'm going to try and close things up here. Are we on Desir watch? We're Desir and the NFL announcements. You're not required to go to Twitter, by the way, and thank everybody. That's not actually binding. That's not paper of record. So, though it was great to see some of that stuff. Great to see Sonny do that and a couple other guys. But what are we looking for in the next 24?
Yeah, there's a couple things I'm watching. The first one is, and Mark is probably going to enjoy this blast from the past. I'm looking at a potential addition at cornerback, Cam Calhoun for short, former teammate of Jermaine Matthews at a cornerback at Winton Woods. Now, he's had a very interesting college career. This would be his 4th team in 4 years. Now, why might that name be familiar to Ohio State fans? He's the perfect example of why you might need to never say never in college football, because if you remember that Michigan game in 2022, which a lot of guys have burned that from their memory, he was on a visit to Ohio State that very game and then committed to Michigan while on that visit. And that made public headlines, got everyone all fired up, and yada, yada, yada. Anyway, he goes to Michigan, plays 2 games, he redshirts. He goes to Utah, plays 11 games, plays 450-plus snaps on the defensive end, and is awesome. Has a Pro Football Focus grade of 80-plus. Terrific. Goes to Alabama a year later because naturally he's seated at Utah, so he thinks he's going to get a promotion and go to Alabama, naturally. And, well, he's a good special teams player, and he gets on the field defensively for about 60 snaps or so. So played in 12 games. He's going to have 2 years of eligibility for whatever team he decides to go to. Bucknuts first reported Ohio State's interest in him on Monday. We heard that he was loosely connected to Ohio State, and I was like, well, I think we need to see a little bit more before I'm ready to say that they have significant interest in him. Well, now I'm ready to say that there is some mutual interest there on both parties. I think that could come together rather quickly. We'll see how fast it progresses. I don't expect him to be in contention for a starting role if they get him. I think he's going to be more of a rotational player, a special teams guy. Obviously, what Jermaine Matthews decides to do could obviously impact Cam's role a lot if he decides to come to Ohio State. But, yeah, I know once Bryce West and Aaron Scott left, fans naturally, correctly said that Ohio State needs more cornerback depth. And, well, the Buckeyes may be on the verge of getting some. Now, I'll turn it back over to Mark. What do you remember about Cam Calhoun from your days of scouting him?
I remember when Jermaine Matthews and he were at Winton Woods, nobody threw the ball. Mm-hmm. And that transfer to Alabama makes sense because Coach Murphy at Winton Woods has Rael Kelly going to Alabama. He has a relationship there, so I'm sure he greased those wheels. And I'm sure he might be the one greasing the wheels to get him over to Ohio State. But those 2 corners, at one point in time, nobody knew who was better in high school. Was it Cam? Was it Jermaine? Was it Cam? And then Jermaine started to be the longer, a little bit more talented of the 2. So he kind of, peaked out ahead of Cam there. But coming out of high school, you have a corner going to Ohio State, a corner going to Michigan. You're living well.
So that was actually item number 2 I was going to get to, is that I still believe that Ohio State needs another wide receiver. In light of Mylan Graham's going to Notre Dame, despite some interest from Ohio State in bringing him back. I think a good, strong candidate for that is infusing some of the wide receiver room with the flavor that new wide receiver coach Cortez Hankton likes. And a good way to do that is Kyle Parker, the former LSU wide receiver that is exploring the transfer portal market as we speak. He was gaining a lot of momentum with Auburn a couple days ago, and now I think Ohio State has at the very least made this an even recruitment. Now, Kyle Parker would have 2 years of eligibility remaining. Last year, he caught 31 passes for 330 yards, 4 touchdowns, and he's about 5'11", 195-pound guy, so he could theoretically play in the slot. He could theoretically play outside. But this is a guy that Cortez knows very well, knows how he'd like to use him, and I wouldn't be surprised if Ohio State gets this done eventually. But Auburn is making things very interesting on that front.
Jordan Seaton has entered. That was my mistake. Jordan Seaton has entered the transfer portal. Everyone knows that. I think Jordan Seaton, of course, the DC native who started. I think he's probably just finished up his sophomore year as the left tackle at Colorado. Very blindsidey in that he's kind of your NFL prototype. He also wants to be paid like a fourth-year NFL starter. So, Garrick, your thoughts on this? There's a rumor here that we're pursuing him. I did not hear that. I've heard that he wants about as much as the rest of the line makes. So
I wouldn't be surprised if Ohio State does its due diligence, but I doubt it makes anything beyond that, especially with all the news of the offensive linemen all coming back. Now, if his price point wasn't going to be what I think it's going to be, maybe they would explore that a little further. But like you said, Dan, I think Ohio State is a lot higher on their offensive line than fans might be right now. And I think that they're really excited about the progression of what it could be next year. To what Mark was saying, you get 7 points theoretically added to their Madden rating. You get another year in the system. The cohesion of the line gets better as they play together. And frankly, I mean, is Jordan Seaton uberly talented? Absolutely. Is he a potential first-round pick? Maybe. But also his Pro Football Focus grade. And I know, PFF's not an end-all, be-all. It's not the end of the world. But his grade was like a 64 last year. That's about an average grade in terms in Pro Football Focus grades. We can have a whole segment on how those are calculated. It's basically a pass-fail on every play. Did you do your job or did you not? But I don't know if Jordan Seaton is going to be worth who knows what the bidding's going to get up to. $3 million, $4 million? And yeah, Dan, maybe the cost,
conservative.
Yeah, maybe the cost of Jordan Seaton ends up being more than Ohio State's entire offensive line. Now that's okay if he's a player that's worth it. But from my vantage point, I'm not sure that it is. But more importantly, from Ohio State's vantage point, I'm sure they'll do their due diligence. They loved him coming out of high school, but I'd be surprised if it really advances beyond that, especially with the heavy hitters that are pursuing him and the news that all the Ohio State offensive linemen are coming back. Now, maybe fans don't like hearing that, but it is what it is.
We have reached. Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, I think I'll finish with this. That I talked to an offensive lineman's dad at Ohio State, and I think Dan's kind of said it. A lot of those guys on our offensive line are kind of equals. There is no guy that's a first rounder that's like, hey, I'm better than all of y'all, and you all are third rounders. I'm the guy. And if you're going to bring a guy like that into that room, he better be one of the guys in a hurry. He better blend in and not pull in his Maybach or whatever he's driving and kind of be that guy, because you got a bunch of, and I want to say they're like good old boys. You know, there's like a brotherhood. They those five guys in that line are kind of like one unit right now, and that's what we're betting on. Is what I'm trying to say right now. Is those guys walk together, live together. They're really tight. Boy, before you bring in someone like Jordan Seaton, and if you know Jordan Seaton, I mean, I remember a video of him pulling up in his brand new car and he dented the rim or something, or it got stolen, or I mean, there's just drama with this kid. And it seems like you don't want to bring that into a peaceful room, might be the best way of saying it.
I can say this because I'm from there. You want to see drama, go cover high school sports in the D.C. area. It's fantastic for that.
You may have just had my favorite comment that we've had since I've been doing this show, and that's from Buckeye Moflo 4788. Any truth to the rumor we're looking at?
I was just going to post that.
1 year of eligibility, one Mark Porter.
My thought is, Mark, you're having some dental work later today. Will that affect your return to maybe college football?
Oh, God. If you saw my highlight tape, you wouldn't be dubbing me as the guy that would solve things. I won't be as smart tomorrow. 2 wisdom teeth are coming out in a few hours, so if I don't sound as smart with the chat, he's not an Ohio State culture guy. I'm
kidding. I put that up there because I think you said that about Jordan Seaton, but I timed it so it seemed like the poobah. That's funny.
Yeah.
I have 2 questions about this Mark Porter. Number 1, can he kick? And number 2, can he block? That's what I need to know. And then can he rush
the passer?
Yeah.
Yeah, long snapping might be my one-trick pony to get a few reps at Ohio State.
Ethan Albright, a redheaded snapper for the Redskins, was always called the Red Snapper. So Can't beat that nickname. Let's check on these Desir twins. That's what Garrick's going to do when he gets off here. Kyle Parker in the mix. It is fluid, so keep it locked into Bucknuts.